the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine. No fear, 'cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You shouldn't doubt yourself, 'cause you're a work of art. You should know that you are perfect with those flaws. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Know that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine. No fear, 'cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine. No fear, 'cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Shine, go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine. No fear, 'cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine. No fear, 'cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine.
Welcome to A Turn of Events, the show where we put a positive spin on the future of your wedding and event planning business. I'm Annette Nave, founder and creative director of Nave Productions, a strategic event production company based in New York City. We specialize in producing unforgettable corporate, social, nonprofit, and wedding events. And I'm also a coach for wedding and event planners on how to launch, grow, and scale your event businesses with confidence. If you're a driven and passionate wedding and event planner and you're looking for a community of people, you need to join us over at the Event Planner Society. It's where planners from around the world come together to network, share referrals, and get access to free training and resources that will take your business to the next level. Just search for Event Planner Society on Facebook and join us there. I can't wait to meet you all. So my next guest I'm very excited about is Lasada Pippen. He is a former computer engineer turned motivational powerhouse. As a first-generation college graduate, first-generation corporate professional, and bilingual STEM expert, Lasada's journey is a real world story of resilience, grit, and reinvention. Growing up in an underserved community, he navigated his way into the tech industry, spent over a decade in corporate leadership, and ultimately made a bold pivot into keynote speaking, business coaching, and empowerment training. Today, he helps individuals and organizations transform obstacles into opportunities through a mix of personal storytelling, practical frameworks, and deeply relatable insights. So we're going to talk today about the climb, moving beyond barriers and elevating your impact. And I'm so excited to have you here, Lasada. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me, Annette. This is awesome. So excited to be here for sure.
No, exciting. So why don't you tell everybody, like, how did you go from the tech into this, keynote speaking? What was the transition there and how did that happen?
Yeah, if I had to point to one word, it probably would be obsession. We can
Yeah,
call it love also.
right.
I've always had a deep passion and a thrill and an excitement about speaking and communicating and inspiring people. That's really the root of it. I want to inspire people. And so I had to make a bold decision one day. My contract was running out in corporate America, and I had to ask myself the question of, do I want to pursue what I love, what I'm obsessed about, or do I want to stay and just continue to do something that I can do? And so I had to make that bold leap of faith and that bold decision to go after my dream and go after my ultimate purpose of where I felt I belonged and where I wanted to be in life. And so I made that shift and I burned the boats and I never looked back. And so I've been doing it ever since. And so it's been a fun, thrilling journey for sure.
I love that. I mean, a lot of people are afraid of, speaking, public speaking. So,
Yep.
that it just scares people a lot. I tend to do it. It's not, I think when you're a little going up there and speaking, but if you're speaking on something that you're passionate about and you know a lot about it, it actually is quite easy to do. So I do love speaking. I speak to wedding and event planners at expos and trade shows and things like that. And,
Yep.
I've been in the business for over 30 years. So, if I
Wow.
can't speak about that, then I need to get out. But I
Yeah.
love it. So you often speak about purpose, potential, and perseverance. How did those principles shape you, shape your journey from engineer to empowerment leadership?
Those were the three things that I had to lean on for myself. And
Yeah.
I am a person of the mindset that I believe that the ultimate happiness or the ultimate contentment is when you're walking and living a life on purpose and in purpose. I just believe that when you use what we call the GPS, when you use your gifts, your talents, your ability, your natural skills, and you apply purpose to that, and then you strategize on how to use those gifts and how to walk in that purpose, your GPS, I believe that's the ultimate level of happiness and contentment. And so for me, I always wanted to get to a place of purpose. And that when I leave here, I always tell myself, I don't want to have any questions at the end. I don't want to have any doubts. I don't want to have any regrets. And so I want to be in purpose for the majority of my life because I believe that that's where you make your ultimate impact. And so I leaned into that. I leaned into purpose and I leaned into where my natural gifting was. And so along with that was perseverance, which is the next thing that I talk about in terms of the three P's is the
Mhm.
perseverance level. I had to overcome a lot growing up. We didn't have a lot of resources. We had very little resources. We weren't financially stable a lot of times, and so I had to overcome a lot of those things. And a lot of that was built through perseverance and grit and resilience. And so
Yeah.
again, it's one of those things that I lean into. And so when
Yeah.
I left corporate, I had to rely on knowing that, hey, I'm going after purpose and I'm going to need perseverance and resilience to make it through this shift, to make it through this transition. And then
Yes.
the potential piece of it is I want to max out my full potential. I just want to leave here with an empty cup. I want to make sure that I, wring myself dry, make sure I get everything out of me. And I want to live life maxed out. And so that's where that purpose, perseverance, and potential all come into play at, is that I lean heavily into all three of those things.
I love it. I think I love that because I also didn't come from there was challenges growing up. There was,
Yeah.
divorces from the parents and remarriages and divorces and remarriages. There was a
Yes.
lot of that going on, a lot of chaos in the family as I was growing up. No
Yep.
one in my family went to college. So
Yep.
myself as well, I was so lucky I'm the first generation as you are yourself. And
Yep.
I also I didn't have any guidance as far as entrepreneurship and doing any of that. So when I
Yes.
started my business 15 years ago, I was like, okay, I had gone through corporate and I did lots of events for 25 years prior to that. So, but I didn't know how to run a business. So, and I was
Yep.
scared to death, but I thought, you know what? What have I got to lose? So I don't make it. I go back and get a job but there's no turning back once you do it. There's really is not. And even if I was to go back to get an event job, it's something that I would do because I wanted to do that. Right. So
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
a horrible thing to have to do that. I know many people who have left the event industry and went off and did something that they really had a passion for. So if there is something that you want to do, and I do have a lot of wedding and event planners who come to me wanting to start their own business. That's what I
Yes.
coach. So, but it's scary. I'm the mindset that you have to do that. And I totally get it because I went through it. I mean, I went through it. I still go through it. I mean, listen, things are a little bit slower now in the event industry. Next year seems to be a little bit slower for me right now, but I'm kind of embracing that, thinking, okay, I'm going to spend more time on my coaching program. And
Yep.
maybe this is opening doors for other things that I'm going to look at. So as you are in this entrepreneurship and starting a new venture in your career, it does get a little bit easier. You do get a little more comfortable because, and I think too, you got to have that grit. You got to have, this makes me think of, even my dad used to say that. He was like, gosh, you're so brave. How do you do this? And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know. This is just what I want to do. So why not try it? Right. What's the worst that can happen? So I just love
Yep.
that about you and that you went ahead and took that leap to do that. So
Yeah.
as
And
I mentioned, right? Yeah,
yeah,
did
and
you want
and I love the word choice that you use about embracing it because that I was terrified. I was scared when I did it, and
to?
I was so scared that I actually tried to go back. I tried to go back into corporate, and I only lasted 2 weeks, because I made a decision out of fear. But
Yes.
I've also learned that it is better to learn how to coexist with fear. I don't know if
Yeah.
it ever completely leaves. I'm not sure of that. I
Yeah.
am okay with the coexistence of fear. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
I have a personal chair just for fear to sit in. I've invited it in, so I'm
Exactly.
fully
You go
embracing.
sit over there. Go sit over
Yes,
there.
yes,
Right?
and
Right.
let's
Oh,
have a
that's fun.
conversation together. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't run from it. I face it just like you said, and I embrace it, and
Yep.
that's living life on the edge and
Yeah.
having that perseverance and resilience. Even though we grew up that way, I always tell people I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world though, because it's no way I could have built the resilience and perseverance that I have without those challenges. So those
Yeah.
challenges were what led to giving me a chance. So I needed the challenges to get the chance that I wanted. So yeah,
Exactly. I love that. I love that.
yeah.
So, as I mentioned, as a first generation college grad and corporate leader coming from an underserved community, what drove you to make the climb into those spaces and eventually pivot into speaking and coaching?
Yeah, so honestly, when I went into engineering, I literally asked myself two questions, and I don't advise anyone to make their decision based on how I made a decision to go into engineering tech. My parents, they barely graduated high school. My oldest brother, he barely graduated. My middle brother dropped out of high school, and then there was me, and so my parents were really hopeful that somebody in the family would go beyond where nobody had never been before,
Right.
and not having a blueprint, not having a role model per se to look up to help navigate some of those charted waters.
Right.
When I made that decision, I asked myself, I said, hey, what makes a lot of money and what's going to be around for a long time? And that's how engineering and technology came up. And so that's why I pursued it and went after it. And I had a beautiful
Right.
career. I had
Yeah.
an awesome career. I didn't leave because I had a bad boss. I didn't leave because I had bad colleagues. I didn't leave because I was underpaid. That's not why I left. I shifted again because of one word: obsession or love or purpose.
Right.
That's why I made the shift. And so I just didn't want to spend my entire life doing something, working 30 years in a company. And then at the end, I get a clock, or a watch or something like that. And
Yeah,
I
you
was like,
get
that's,
something
that's not,
like a
that's not who I
trophy.
am, And so I said, I want to go after the things that I want, and
Yeah.
I want to live a life on purpose. And so that's why I made the climb, the leap, and the shift into this space, because this is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what wakes me up. This is what I get fired up about. And again, I am obsessed with what I do. I love it. And
I
so, yeah,
love it.
that's what called me here.
And you're going to be successful. Like I say this to, some, when they come to me and they're like, so I really want to start my own business. I want to be a wedding event planner. And I said, you really need to have the passion, because it's very stressful. It looks glamorous, and at times it is, but for the most part, it is not. It is a lot of work, and especially running the business, it's a whole different animal than just being a planner somewhere in a corporate America. It's a totally different thing. So you have to, there's a lot that goes into running a business. So I always say you have to love this. You have to have the passion to do this, because you're not going to make it if you don't. It's not, you have to love what you do. It's so, so important. And I've been doing it since I think I was just born to do it. I was always the girl in school that was organizing all the parties. And I was the person that did that. And so I was like, oh, I can make money doing this. This is amazing.
Yes,
so,
that's right.
I've learned a lot of ways to make money doing this, which is great. So I didn't in the beginning when I was running the business. I had no idea how to price myself. So, that's ridiculous. I think I did eventually figure out that one of the first events that I planned, I made a negative $52 an hour. So there you go. When you learn that you didn't price yourself right, you're going to make changes to that. So that doesn't feel good. And that's always set with me, is that negative 52 an hour when I figured out how to price my services. So
totally agree.
I know there's so much to it, but what was the biggest challenge you faced transitioning from tech into this new calling, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge probably was really believing in what I had to offer, in believing that I do have value and I provide high value. Shifting the mentality and fully believing that probably was the biggest challenge, the biggest hurdle, was just adjusting my mentality to know that, hey, you do have something to say, you do offer high value, and you need to fully believe that. Because I realize that it's hard to be good at something or great at something that you're not passionate and purposeful about. That is hard. And so I just had to adopt the mentality of, hey, you're passionate about this. You are purpose for this. And you need to fully believe that, even when the days are hard, even when you don't always hit it right, you still need to lean into that belief of, no, this is what your purpose and passion to do. And so that was the biggest hurdle, was my own mentality. You know what I mean?
Right. It's so true. When I started, when you're coaching someone and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so great, such great information. You have so much information. And then you're working with a client who doesn't appreciate all the value that you bring. It can beat you up, it can beat you up. And there's hundreds of clients who absolutely loved us, right? That were just raving and referred us. And we've gotten nothing. My whole business runs on referral. And you are awesome. What your reputation is. So, and I do get some work off my website, which is great. But there are, it's consistency. You have to be super consistent. And I could go down that road and start going into that. But you can get beat up if you just have to. It's mindset. I mentioned this earlier. You have to have a really good mindset about yourself and your courage to do it. And you are good at what you do, and you can do this. And even if there's someone out there that feels like you didn't do a great job, or you should have done this better, or it doesn't matter, because they're not your right people, and you're going to find your right people. And you just have to keep going and just feel confident. Confidence is everything. I say that all the time in my sales pieces when I'm, talking to the client about what we do, and this is the services we offer, and this is how much it is. And it's all about the confidence. If you're like, oh, if you seem scared, they're going to think, well, she doesn't know what she's doing. Like, she doesn't have the confidence to tell me about it. So how's she even going to do it? So I feel like that's a really big piece. And I love what you said about that, because just having the mindset that you can do this and you are worth all this value that you have to give is so important. And I love that.
Yeah, and to add on what you just said, the word that you used at the end, the word confidence, that is one of the words that is a part of our C4 framework when we talk about communication and how to help people communicate effectively and all that kind of stuff. Confidence is the last piece that we talk about in that C4 framework. And you're right, that is a big factor. But I realize that confidence stems from preparation. It comes from doing the work. It comes from working in the dark when nobody has seen you. It comes from spending time in your industry, in your craft.
Yep.
That's where confidence comes from the prep work that you've done to get to this point, to get to this stage. Wherever you are in your business, in your industry, you've put in the work, and you have to know that. And you have to believe that I have put in the work. I've put in the time, the energy, the sweat. I put it in. And so I have to believe that my prep work will support and lead me to even greater confidence. So I love that word choice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I tell them when they're presenting the proposal, because that's the scariest part. And when you get to the money piece, right, you're going through all of that. It took me a long time to get to that point, to get to a point where I get on the call, I'm having a great time. I'm excited you got to be excited about what you're presenting, because that's going to get them excited. And I just naturally do that because I love events. That's what I do. And I just remember back in the days when I just was so nervous. Like, am I presenting right? Do they like me? Do I look okay? Are they going to hire me? I really need this job because I don't have any money. When I was first starting, I was like, I just remember all those things are going through your head. But, now I get off the phone and I'm like, I just love doing these. I could do the sales calls all day long. I love presenting because I'm prepared. I've done it a million times probably at this point. And so it just becomes easier. And my closing rate's so high that, now when you get to that point, you can then start charging more and you're a little more selective. So, but that comes from the confidence and being prepared, just like you said. It takes time. It doesn't happen right away. So I try to tell my coaching clients that all the time. So you talk 100%. Also, I know. So you talk also about the idea of the climb. What does that framework mean, and how can event professionals apply it to their own leadership and growth?
Yeah, so the climb is really about an elevation of mentality. It's really a growth mindset. That's really what the climb is about. And if you think about it, if you've ever seen mountain climbers, or if you've ever done mountain climbing yourself, there are two forms of energy that you have to use. One, you have to pull. You have to pull yourself up. And then the second one is that you have to push yourself up. You have to use both forms of energy, both forms of muscle and grit and grind. And so the climb is really about a growth mindset. It's about elevating that mindset. It's about being able to turn obstacles into opportunities and not getting stuck behind the obstacle. And so we want to have the mentality of seeing an opportunity inside of every obstacle. There's no such thing as a problem that doesn't have a solution. Whether we know the solution or not, that's a different thing. But every problem has a solution. And I always encourage people that when you're making a climb, you want to become the pro in the problem. You want to become that person. And so the climb is really all about elevating your mentality, having a growth mindset. And you can apply this to any industry, to any profession, to wherever you are in your career. If you're running a business, if you're a solopreneur, wherever you are, you can apply this climb mentality to help you scale and grow to the next level. And so that's how we approach the climb. It's all about the growth mentality and elevating your mindset to push beyond the obstacles and turn every obstacle into an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we as planners, there's always a problem, right? It doesn't.
Yes.
You can plan and plan and plan, but there's always going to be some problem that comes up at an event, and so you always have to have like plan B, C, and D, and you just have to be prepared for those type of things. That's a big piece of what we do is, making sure you have that next plan. And there's never been an issue where we haven't been able to come up with we've solved some problem that came up. Now, it might not have been the vision we had originally, but no one knows that, right? So the people who are at the events, or there's been a change in something, no one really knows unless it's something major. But knock on wood, we've been lucky and it hasn't been anything major. But that's the importance of dealing with really great vendors. When you got great vendors, they're going to be there to help you pick up the pieces if something's falling apart. So, but
being able to pivot.
I mean, that was the big COVID word, right? So
pivot, adjust.
But we did some big pivoting during COVID. We went from live events to virtual. So that's
right. Yeah.
So, all right. So many of our listeners are possibly, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but they're possibly wanting to change careers into the event planning, or have been doing events in corporate and they want to venture out and start their own business. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for someone looking to successfully transition into a new career path?
Yeah, so it kind of points back to what we've been talking about, is that, one, do you love it? Wherever this new place is, this new career, this new business, wherever you're trying to go, just simply ask yourself the question of, do I love this? And one of the measurements of love is, have you ever done it for free? Have you ever done it to where nobody commented on it, nobody gave you praise, nobody gave you accolades, nobody reshared it, nobody reposted it, nobody did nothing, and you still found yourself in love with whatever this new thing is? If you can answer yes to that, keep going forward. Make the decision to keep going forward because you love it. Number two is, are you good at it? Are you at least pretty good at it? Not just average, and barely, being able to survive in this particular industry, but are you good at it? Because if you're good at it, then you can scale up to being great, but you have to be good at it though. And then number three is that, how does it help somebody else? Why do they need what you're going after? If you find yourself in this new position, in this new space, wherever you want to be, once you are there, how does it help somebody else? Why do they need what you have or what you are producing? Why do they need it? And if you can answer that question, now you're able to position yourself with knowing the value that you bring. Because if you can't answer how does it help somebody else or why do they need it, then you don't understand the value that you have. Yes. And so you have to be able to answer those three questions. Do I love this? Am I obsessed about it? Is this all I talk about? When I'm having just random conversation, do I find myself daydreaming about this new area, this new space, this new business, whatever this new thing is? Am I just constantly thinking about that? And then am I good at it? Do I actually have the skill to survive in this new space, in this new arena? And then how does it help somebody else? What is the value that you bring? Why do they need what you have? Yeah. Because a lot of times the industries that we go into, a lot of them are crowded spaces. It's not like there's a brand new industry and there's nobody operating in these particular spaces. A lot of times it's crowded spaces. And so how do you stand out amongst the crowd? That's when you know this is the value that I bring. This is why you need what I have. That's the critical part of moving forward and continuing to press forward towards that new space. But it starts by simply making a decision. Just make the decision first, and then make sure all of those things are able to be measured.
Yeah, so good. So you mentioned a crowded, industry. Event planning, that's like so crowded, right? That's like crazy crowded. And in New York, it's just insane. However, and I've been up, against 3 or 4 different planners who are very successful, who have been in the industry. And sometimes I got the events, and sometimes they got the events, right? There's been many times, it just depends on the field. But so it really does come down to also, they're going to connect with who they're going to connect with. So you really need to be authentic. Mm-hmm. Being authentic is really, really important. That comes with, even if you could be prepared, but you really need to be yourself. Don't prepare like someone else prepared. Don't try to follow what other people are doing. Follow what you do. And it's hard because you're out there, social media is big. You see everybody, you see all these great events, you see all these beautiful designs, and you're like, I can't do that. Yes, you can. You hire the people that do those. Not every planner is designing these gorgeous designs. They have design companies that help them do that. So,
Yes.
but I think the biggest piece is, get the noise out from all of that and just be yourself and just keep going. You got to just keep going. The biggest thing I always talked about is I didn't give up. I just didn't give up. Even at the time when, oh my gosh, I was like borrowing money from my dad and I paid him back, but I was like, I need to pay this one thing. And, and so it was years ago. And I was like, I don't even know if I could, I don't even know how I just kept going. I just kept going. Somehow it worked out. And I had the grit, there's that grit again. So,
yeah. And you know what? And that two things also is that and this is really critical for people that are transitioning, who will be new to an industry, new to a space or whatever, is that what you don't want to do is compare yourself to other people.
Correct.
You don't want to compare yourself to other, in your case, you don't compare yourself to other event planners. If you're a speaker, don't compare yourself to other speakers. And, that points back to, like you were saying, is you want to be authentic. Because I realize that when people start comparing themselves, when they start watching what everyone else is doing, they're diminishing their own value. They're diminishing their own gifts. And they may say something like, that event planner over there, I wonder why did they get the gig? Why did they get the event?
Yeah.
And maybe because they're better than me. It's only two things happen when you compare yourself to others. It's somebody's going to be superior, somebody's going to be inferior. Those are the only two options. And so you don't want to get into this space of comparing yourself. You want to focus on you. Focus on, what do you bring to the table? What are your gifts? How is this connected to your purpose? And then what is your strategy? That GPS that I talked about. But don't get into the comparison game. That's a very critical mistake that I see a lot of people make when they're new to something. They compare themselves to other people. And I'm like, nope, you don't want to do that. You need to lean into where you are great. Lean into what makes you unique, what makes you great. Lean in all the way into that. But don't compare yourself to other people. Don't do that.
And I totally get it. Because, listen, we're human. So we could get in and you could, look at different sites on Instagram and everybody's taking on a road. So I try to do that. However, I do watch what everybody's doing, my colleagues, because I might get an idea. It's like, I was like, oh, I like the way they're marketing that. I like the way they're messaging in this. I like the way they're showing their pictures or whatever, because, we have a lot of great pictures. So there's a lot of great to market us. It's a great field as opposed to like an accountant who has, it's a hard one. But I get inspiration. So I try not to take myself down a road of, I want to be, but I also want to be involved with those people. I want to get in the room with those people because they're successful. They're doing great work. How are they getting those clients and what are they doing? So I want to learn from them. Even though I've been in this forever and I teach it, I still have things to learn, right? There's things to learn all the time. And just recently, there's a very successful wedding planner, very, very successful. And I wrote her and I said, I just saw you on a podcast and I think you're so great. And I have a podcast. Would you like to be on the podcast? She wrote back immediately and said, absolutely. And she's been talking to my team. My team says she's so excited to talk to me. So she might know who I am. I don't know. I've never had a conversation with her. I've been following her forever. She might know who I am, but she also is just so gracious. And I love that. And she's excited to be on. So you just never know, like, I think it's really important to get in front of people that you aspire to be. Like
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Because drawing inspiration is, drawing inspiration is one thing. It's just, you just don't want to teeter that line to where you fall into comparison and to where you start diminishing yourself because somebody is further ahead than you, or because, you may perceive them as doing better than you. And I just don't want people to devalue themselves because of the comparison. But drawing inspiration, I think that's awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, completely. So how can event professionals better understand and connect with their audience to maximize their impact?
Say that one more time, sorry.
How can event professionals better understand and connect with their audience to maximize their impact?
Yeah, totally. So one of the first questions that I always ask whenever someone is booking me, I always ask them who's in the room, who's in the audience, what are they doing? Give me role descriptions, give me job titles, let me know what does their everyday look like. That's so
Mhm.
I can better customize and tailor something that is specific for them. You want your client to be the client, not a client. See, those are
Mhm.
two different ways that you look at the person that you're providing value to and that you're providing a service to. They're the client, not a client. Because a client means that you're going to treat them just like anybody else. You're going to treat them just like you treated the last customer. So you want to know who. You want all of the little fine details that you can gather. And that only comes by asking questions. That's probably the most important question that I ever ask when someone books me is that who's in the room? What do they do every day? Who's the audience? I want to know who I'm talking to. And
Yeah.
so think about this just for a moment. And that have you ever been snorkeling before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so if you've been snorkeling, you know that they give you a 5 minute pep talk, and then they kind of send you on your way. You're
Yeah.
out, you're snorkeling.
Into the
Yeah,
sharks.
yeah, and you're into the sharks, dolphins or whatever. But you're
Yeah.
on your way after about a 5 minute pep talk. Now, then on the other side, you have scuba diving. Now, scuba
Uh,
diving, you're in the same body of water, same, ocean or wherever you may be, but scuba diving is a process. It takes a
yeah.
little while before they release you to scuba dive. It can take a couple months. I think you may have to get a certification or something like that, but it's not a 5 minute pep talk and then go. And so I'm using that as a comparison example of who you're talking to. Sometimes you're going to talk to people to where you only need to snorkel. You're at the top. It's just high level. You can stay right on the surface. They're gonna get it. They don't need all of the little details. And then there are some times to when you're talking to a client to where you're gonna need to scuba dive. You're gonna need to go deeper. You're gonna need to ask more pertinent questions. You're gonna have to be a little bit more meticulous. But that's just understanding the audience and know who you're talking to. Some people are snorkeling conversations. Some are scuba diving conversations. But we as leaders and in the event space, we have to know who we're talking to. Is this a snorkeling moment or is it a scuba diving moment? And so I think that's critical in the process of making an event even greater than what it can be.
Right. That's such great advice. Such great advice. What steps can someone take to establish credibility, especially when just starting out?
Show your proof in the pudding. And you know what? So and then I what I do now, I did this for free for more than 5 years.
Oh,
So when I was in engineering and tech, I would use all of my PTO. I was using my PTO. I would go to events. I was using my own. I was paying for my own airplanes. I was paying for my own hotels. Using my own car. I didn't get a dime for 5 years.
oh
And
boy.
yeah, and I'm not encouraging people to work for free. You can't do business for free. That is not what I'm encouraging.
Right.
But what that did for me, though, that gave me credibility. That gave me reps. That gave me hours. That gave me time. That
Yep.
gave me intimacy with the practice, with the work. And so, if you want the credibility, don't take the shortcuts because shortcuts, you always end up being cut short, literally.
Right.
And so, you don't want to try to take the shortcut. You put in the practice, put in the time, and that builds credibility. Even if you don't have an audience, I would find myself in the middle of a park, before anybody got out there. I was out there practicing. I was out there practicing with the trees and squirrels, and sometimes sometimes I would record it, and I would use it as a reference point. I would, practice, and sometimes I would use it just to show people that, hey, I do have a skill. I don't have an audience, but I have a skill. And so
Mhm.
that's a different way of approaching it. So you can gain credibility by simply putting in the time, putting in the work, and don't try to take the shortcut there. Don't try to get, to the 100,000 people event before you do the 1,000 event, because that's
Yeah.
important is to go through that process and make progress along the way.
Yeah. So good, Lasada. It's so good. The one thing that I've done is, although I pretty much didn't make money in the beginning because I wasn't pricing
Mhm.
myself right,
Yep.
is um, so I really wanted this client, but they didn't have the budget, but they had the
Mhm.
wedding that was going to I was going to be able to have the pictures of this
Mhm.
wedding
Yep.
in a destination that I wanted to work. So there were times when I would pay for my flights, lower my rate a little bit. I'd still
Hmm.
make money. I'd still make some money, but not what I should have been making. But
Correct.
it got me to, it got me to Costa Rica, or it got me to Italy, or it got me to wherever I wanted to be, to get the portfolio that I can
Yes.
show the work, because
Yep.
that's what my industry is about. They look at the pictures and they say, oh, she's done, this type of event. She knows how to do
Yep.
this, what I love, and that client's going to reach out. So you
Yep.
kind of have to have those kind of things in your portfolio to show the work. That builds credibility, right? So
The,
obviously word of mouth
absolutely.
was it, and just doing events and being in the industry and hustling. I hustled like crazy and networked everywhere. I mean, just anything. I went to every event in the first couple of years and just handed out business cards to people who asked. And that's how I built it. I really was just out there, hitting the ground and doing whatever I need to do. I don't do that so much now because the business is
Yep.
15 years older and it's a little different. I have a team now, so I have a bigger marketing team, and I have
Yep.
I can pay for now. But
Yep.
it was definitely, there are things, and even now, I will take an event if I want to get in this venue that I've been dying to work at, or if I want to be in another location, because we do
Yep.
destinations. So yeah, there's ways that I will still take a cut sometimes if I need to, or pay for my travel to get to some place in order to get the gig, so I can show the credibility, basically, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And even that is a form of payment. It may not be in the form of dollars or checking your account, but just by doing that event, that gets you to this place where you can capture the moments and you can capture this beautiful experience and these beautiful
Mhm.
photos. Just by doing that, you could have just booked your next five from doing that one
Correct.
that didn't pay as well. So we have to
Right.
think beyond the instant
Yep.
payment, or you know what I mean? And so, yeah,
Yep.
you just want to go through the process because that does build credibility. Because if
Yeah.
you don't do that, then you don't have anything to show. And so
Right.
there are times when I'm coaching new speakers per se, and they may say, hey, I want to charge $10,000, and I'm like, how many stages have you been on? And do you have a demo reel? Do you have a clip of you just speaking with no editing, just raw? Do you
Yeah.
have all of the things to where you can charge $10,000? If you don't, then you can't set your price here just yet. Can you get there? Absolutely, but
Right.
don't try to get so far ahead to where you miss the entire boat. You know what I mean?
Right, for sure. I mean, we hire speakers because we do events that have speakers. And
Yep.
so there are times when the client hires them, but I've also done events for people like you who coach speakers, and they've done
Yep.
events, and that's a whole thing. And so I know a lot of speakers, and I'm in lots of different groups where there's speakers and stuff like that. So I've been around that. So I'm really well aware. And there's such a range of what they make, and a lot of that are,
It is.
just getting on stages, just getting out there, and
Yeah.
maybe not paying anything, or getting just their travel and hotel expenses paid, and maybe
Yep.
not being paid for their service. And there's a lot of them that do that. And honestly, if I was wanting to do that and hit the stages and be out there, I would do the same, because that's the way you kind of have to do that. I mean, I've gotten on stages where I didn't get paid, but I got coaching clients, right?
Hmm.
The whole
See?
audience was
Yes.
wedding and event planners who wanted to start their own business. It's a gold mine. It's like a marketing tool. So I
Get in
went
front
to
of them. Yep.
and I just had to, pay for my air flight or whatever. I think I was driving to it at this point. There's been a couple of them, but
Of
I've gotten
course.
clients through that. I know when I get in front of people, I'm probably going to sell one or two, or, it just
At
depends. So
least. Yeah. There you go.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's really great. So I want to
Yep.
talk about your clients. I want to talk about who's your ideal client and what you do. So after working with you, how do your clients typically describe the transformation they experience, both personally and in their businesses?
Yeah.
And
So
let's talk about who your clients are too.
yeah. So I primarily speak to corporations, organizations, and schools. In those three industries, pretty much is where I speak. It's keynote, is motivational speaking, and then there's also coaching on communication, how to become a communicator like a champion, how to improve communication. It doesn't matter if you're amateur, it doesn't matter if you're a professional, CEO, executive, it doesn't matter where you are. We have the communication framework that will help you elevate your level of communication. Anybody can apply it, anybody can use it. And so when you have an experience with me, and if you haven't had an experience with me, I'll say it like this humbly, you don't know what you're missing. Because most people describe LP after an event as, wow, this was so dynamic. His delivery is super dynamic. My room left feeling electrified. And this
Mhm.
was an electrical experience for my audience. My audience leave here now with tools, with practical tools that we can take back. We know exactly what to do. We know how to implement this into our company, into our organization. We now know the weak spots. We know the blind spots. And now, because of LP's tools and his dynamic delivery and frameworks, we're able to solve the problems that we were trying to solve for several times. I had somebody just recently tell me, I was doing some training in Miami, and he recently told me that we've been trying to solve this problem for 5 years with our board and our leadership team. He said, you came in and did this in less than 3 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that's what you get when you hire me as a speaker.
Yeah.
You're going to get a dynamic delivery. You're going to get an electric experience. Your audience will leave there happier. They will leave there better, and they will leave there ready to perform at their highest possible level. They will not leave the same way that they walked in. They're going to be totally different people, and your company is going to benefit. You're going to make more money. You're going to sell more product. You're going to have a better team. Everything is going to be better about your company, your organization, or even your school. So that's what happens when you hire LP.
You have such great energy, and that's the energy is everything, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big piece of it, and you have such great energy, and I can't wait to have you on one of my stages. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm very excited. I'm definitely gonna. We're always getting that ask, and I'm gonna put it out there, and we're definitely gonna get you on the stage. So,
Yes.
but I do this little lightning round where I ask a few questions. Do you mind if we kind of? I know we haven't gone through these. They're simple. There's just a few little lightning round questions.
No, let's do it. I'm totally game. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, who is someone that that is inspiring you at the moment, and why?
Probably John Maxwell. Probably because of his longevity, his consistency throughout the years. I have a lot of mentors that I don't even know. And what I mean by that is because of people like John Maxwell. I've never met him, I don't know him, but I've read a ton of his books and I've watched him on stage do his thing. So he's inspired me and he's teaching me, even though he don't know me. And so I first come to mind is John Maxwell. Yeah,
Oh, well, you have to meet him. That's amazing.
I want to. Yeah,
I know. Well, you're putting that out there, so there
yeah,
you go.
yeah.
So, that's funny because speaking of, when I first started, I do a lot of events for coaches who have a following and they want to sell their coaching program, and you do like this 3-day event and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And when I first started, I had this book, Book Yourself Solid. So I don't know if you know who Michael Port is. So he has, him and Amy Port have a whole coaching program that they've done. And we've done many events for them. But what
Mhm.
happened was I saw this book and I was like, I want to do an event for him. And sure enough, like 5 or 6 years later, someone at an event, this couple at an event who like fell in love with me and were like, you're so great. They were coming to a bunch of events that I was doing. And they knew him. And so he was looking for a planner and they recommended me and he hired me. And I just remember looking at his book when I first started and said, I want to do events for him. And sure enough, it happened. So those are
That
kind
is
of funny
amazing.
stories. And they're great. I still, they change their format of the events, but so yeah, right. Someone inspires you. So you just never know. You got to put it out there. So there you go.
That's right. So amazing. Yeah.
I know. What's the best advice you ever received?
Hmm. You don't have to be the best in order to give your best.
Great.
I use that to this day. Is that you don't have to have everything perfect. You don't have to have all of your T's crossed and all of your I's dotted. You don't have to be the best in order to give your best. And so that has something that has inspired me to put my best foot forward every single day. And so I reference that quote a lot when I'm speaking and coaching and so forth. You don't have to be the best in order to give your best. They're two separate things.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So what is one advice that you can give to wedding and event planners who are just starting out? Probably that is a great advice, but I'm sure you have so much more.
No, I'm gonna give you something that spins off of what you were saying earlier. You said, I just never quit. That's what you said. I just kept going and I just never quit. So here's what I would tell new event planners or who's new to the industry is to always push. Now, here's what push means in the world of LP. It means to persevere until success happens. So always push. Always persevere until success happens. If you keep shooting, you'll eventually make the shot. If you keep swinging, you'll eventually hit the ball. If you stop, you automatically eliminate yourself from getting to where you want to get to. So always push. Persevere until success happens. The game is not over until you win. If you haven't won, guess what? The game is not over. So always push. Persevere until success happens.
I love it. I love it. So how can we find you?
Yes, very easy. LasadaPippen.com, or all of my socials are just simply at Lasada Pippen. I'm a pretty easy target to find for the most part.
I know. That's really great. Thank you so much for being here. I could talk about this forever. You're awesome. And I can't wait to have you on one of my stages. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, so awesome. Thank you for having me. Great conversation and so grateful for sharing this time and this space with you. And so thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, everyone, if you have a topic that you're interested in wanting to hear about, please connect with me over on Instagram. Send me a DM. Would love to hear it. We'll get some great speakers here, just like Lasada, LP, as he calls himself. And I'm so happy that you were here. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, thank you.